apart from seeing this thing in the sky, there's also going to be 4 Jupiter-sized planets floating around at the same time. So the skies are going to look amazing. There's also going to be communication between the brown dwarf and our sun. By communication, I mean exchange of plasma. So they're going to be these massive coronal injections that are going to be happening. So the sky is going to look incredible. It's going to be pretty dangerous. There is a possibility that one of the other planets around Nibiru could collide with one of the other planets in our solar system, or with the sun. I'm being told those things won't happen this time, but the sky is going to look amazing. Really, this is such an exciting time to be here. And I know it seems bizarre, but you'll work through, and Crystal will take you through this process of working through the initial shock to get you into your higher self, to understand why you're here and to see the exciting aspects to all of this. So in the second half, I'm going to talk a little bit about the who and the why stuff, and then Crystal will also do some why stuff as well. The key to the who stuff goes back 4 billion years, because there's a race of reptilians called the Dracos, and they feel that they own this universe because they've been around here for so long. And they in fact owned this solar system for a long period of time. Hence why we had a period where the dinosaurs were the major species on the planet. Now the thing about the Dracos is they operate from the lower realms of the 4th dimension. Okay? The lower realms of the 4th dimension down into the 3rd dimension. And they've been travelling around conquering everybody because they believe they have a right to. They don't have emotions. Some of you might have heard that there is a good reptilian race, and that there's the bad reptilians and there's the good reptilians. It's not true. The reptilians have an agenda, they have no emotions, and they will do whatever they need to do to achieve that result. So if they're being nice to you, which is what some people believe the reptilians are, they're not. They're just doing what they need to get their agenda. Now the reason why the reptilians are the key in all of this is because they want to conquer the whole universe. Not just the 3rd dimensional realm, which is ruled by fear, which is the mirror. So they use fear to control everything from the 4th dimensional realm. Now what you can do at the 4th dimension is you have the ability to shapeshift. So you can project onto 3rd dimensional forms. So you can control, because their agenda is to get up into the higher realms. They want to get up into the 5th dimension and the 6th dimension and 7th dimension to conquer it. But they can't, because they're rooted in fear. So what they decided to do was to get hold of some humanoid mammalian DNA and create hybrids, and to use like a Trojan horse to get into the 5th dimension. So through hybrid forms, they could get up into the 5th dimension to conquer it. So what they did on this planet, they started creating a whole lot of experiments 100 million years ago with their own DNA, trying to find a form that could get up in here, but they couldn't. There was also a big galactic war going on at the time, and 65 million years ago, the planet got hit by an asteroid, bang. And a truce was called between a galactic federation, and probably some of you have heard of it in some other form, of 5th dimensional up beings who live in a state of love. And they take various forms of that. So they declared that this planet Earth would be a hospital where beings from all over the galaxy could come here to work through their shit, where they could incarnate into forms to work out their karma, because they believe in it. And the Dracos said, we don't have a problem with that at all, so long as we can help. So we just need some access to some DNA to create some vehicles that these beings can incarnate into. So 20 million years ago, they got to a point and I'm jumping a little bit because they created all the shrews and all the things first, but 20 million years ago they created the Old World monkeys. And the Old World monkeys had between 20 and 80 chromosome pairs. Now the Dracos, they live in excess of 100 million of our years. And that may seem extraordinary, but imagine I'm a butterfly and I live for a day. And I look at you and I go, are you telling me you live 365,000 of my lifetime? No, that's not possible. So to a butterfly, the concept of us living for 80, 90 years is ridiculous. Well, imagine we're the butterfly to the Dracos. They live over 500 million years. So a couple of million years for them to do an experiment is nothing. Okay? So having created the Old World monkeys, they went, okay, let's work out which one's best out of that. And 12 million years ago, they created gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, and the gibbons. Now, the gorillas, chimpanzees, and orangutans had 48 chromosome pairs, I think, and the gibbons had 44. The gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans were a bit too strong, and the gibbons were a little bit, although they had the bipedal motion, they didn't have the strength needed. So what they did was they eventually settled on 46 chromosomes as the best vehicle to do that. Australopithecus, Peking man, Neanderthal man, Cro-Magnon man. Now the interesting thing about Neanderthal man is Neanderthals had a brain capacity twice as big as ours. And the anthropologists will tell you that they were so stupid they died out. Doesn't quite resonate with me. But what does resonate with me is if a Neanderthal is twice as smart as we are, then they would have been a threat to the Dracos. So they went, oh, we won't have that experiment. That went the wrong way. Don't want them too smart. Got to be able to control them. So they created, eventually, Homo sapiens. Not just one, but they created 9 prototypes, and they were all females. XX chromosome. Why would you create all females? Because if you're going to breed, you need females, not males. And in actual fact, you can breed parthenogenically. Now, parthenogenesis is where a female can impregnate herself. And there are numerous species on the planet that practice parthenogenesis, including mammals. And there was a Korean scientist who actually achieved this with human embryos back in 2004. Okay? So you can have parthenogenic stuff going on. And in fact, the female chromosome, just to put us men in our place, and this is very relevant to what I talked about before about the women knowing the toning, knowing the codes in DNA. A Y chromosome is actually a piece removed. Males are incomplete. Deliberately incomplete. Okay? That's a little bit of a side there. So they created 9 prototypes. One with black skin, one with white skin, one with yellow skin, one with red skin, one with blue skin, one with green skin, one with brown skin, and I can't remember the others. And they put them in various places to see which one would develop and be the best vehicle. Then around about 450,000 years ago, there was a race on one of the planets around the brown dwarf. Now, the term Nibiru is often used for that. Now, Nibiru can refer to the planet from which these beings come from, or it can refer to the actual brown dwarf itself, or it can refer to that whole little mini system. They're all sort of interchangeable. The race that was on this planet came to the Earth 450 million years ago, and the Dracos said to them, we're quite happy for you to come onto this planet to mine your gold and do whatever you want, but we want some of your DNA. Not a problem. So they then genetically engineered the man as we know it now, and they used them to mine gold. And the Dracos were quite happy for this to go along. Because what happens is, within your DNA, you have segments that are reptilian. In fact, your brain, at the top of your stem, the first part of it is reptilian. And then the other bits are tacked on. There's a midbrain, and then it divides into two separate brains. The left hemisphere and right hemisphere are separate brains. They work totally independently, and then they work through the causal callosum, I can't remember the exact name of it, which is the part that joins it together. So we are a genetic experiment. And the reason we're a genetic experiment is so that the Dracos can get into the fifth dimension. So they control everything. So let's have a look at, and they're still on the planet. They control many of the lower levels of the underground DUMBs, the deep underground military bases in the US. They control absolutely everything, and they control the Illuminati. They do everything through ritual. Everything is through ritual. So anything that you do, which is ritualistic, is tapping into your reptilian DNA. It's controlling you. You're not controlling it. How many people are aware of Kundalini Yoga or practice Kundalini Yoga? Okay? It's reptilian. The symbology is all reptilian. Because you are continually trying to raise your energy up through your spine. If Kundalini Yoga worked, you would do it once and you would attain that level and stay there, and you would have no need to do it again. But what happens? You get pulled back down again. It's like you've got a piece of elastic here, you stretch it up and it gets pulled back down again. Stretch it up because it's reptilian. The whole energy is based in fear. And if you practice Kundalini Yoga, try this the next time. Project yourself to your highest state to begin with and reach down and pull up. Suddenly you will have no need to do Kundalini Yoga again because you will already be in that heightened state of awareness. We have a tendency to overcomplicate absolutely everything. Source says there's nothing complicated in the universe. Everything is absolutely simple. But there are levels of complexity. But everything is simple. We are the only creature in the universe that complicates everything. The only creature that does it. So the Dracos have this agenda where they want to get into the fifth dimension, and they're using us as a vehicle to do it. So whenever your energy is locked into any sort of fear, you're operating at third dimensional level, and they can manipulate you and control you. They'll control you through money, because you'll have a fear of not having any, or not having as much as the person next door, or not having a house. And so the minute you're tapped into any sort of material possession, you are addicted to money, which is what they created. And their prime vehicle through which they create and control everything is the Illuminati. I can't even spell it. They control everything through the Illuminati because the people who the Illuminati fall into one of two categories. They are either full-blood reptilians shape-shifted into human form, or they are hybrid reptilians with their agendas.
What's the difference in their agenda? Is there a difference in their agenda?
Their agenda is quite simple. They want to conquer the fifth dimension.
So why does it matter whether they're hybrid or...
No, this is how they control. This is how they control the sheeple through the Illuminati, and they will either be fully reptilian appearing as human because they can shapeshift, or they will be in a hybridized human form. Total reptilian.
Yes. And the Queen.
Queen's a total reptilian. Hillary Clinton's a total reptilian. Yep. They are in every major government position in the world, Every president of the United States going back to Washington has been Illuminati. They are also controlling all of the major religions of the world.
Aren't they the Masons as well?
It's a subgroup. Yep. You've got the Rosicrucians, you've got the Masons, any sort of formal organisation that has rules of control is Illuminati control.
Have you ever had any personal experiences which confirm all of this? Your experience?
Have you walked around the world? Everything's controlled with rules and regulations. Have I met reptilians in this life? No. That doesn't mean that I'm not meant to. But I've spoken to many people who have. Many people who have. But Crystal, we'll get Crystal to tell you about her experiences when we were in a past life in Egypt, about what was happening to the priestesses in the temples.
You mentioned all the presidents were all Illuminati. Where does Kennedy fit into all this? Because he was trying to expose certain things which he got illuminated for.
Kennedy's father was Illuminati. Total Illuminati. And because of the bloodline, they come through. So he wanted his son to be the president. But it wasn't Jack who was supposed to be the president, it was the older brother who died in the war. So he pushed Jack through, and Robert. But see, both of those saw through the illusion, because there are other aspects, and we'll get into that now. The human form, the human body. Okay, we've got the reptilians in human forms over here. Then we've got what I call Gaia homegrowns. And then over here you've got your star-seeded. And many of you will fall into this category here. The Gaia homegrown consciousness in human bodies is consciousness that has come through Gaia. It's gone through being mineral, it's gone then up through being plant consciousness, it's then gone up through animals and insects, it's gone through the whole hierarchy, which the Buddhists talk about, to get into human body consciousness. And they are homegrown, and most of these people are pretty simple, basic sort of people. We probably all know people who we go, yeah, they don't have a lot of spirituality about them. Okay? That's a really important thing to say, because the star-seeded people are the ones who were invited to this planet to come as healers. So they put their hand up and they said, yes, I'm going to come and I'm going to heal. They came from the Pleiades or Sirius or whatever they bring with them. Now, when you come here, you will partner up with someone from here, because there's no point with you partnering another Pleiadian. Waste of time. So you will connect with people to try to...
Now though, that's actually, that was the case, but now, over the last sort of 10 years, that's actually shifted. So a lot of staff...
Because of what's going to happen.
Actually, yeah, exactly.
Yes, they're regrouping because they know it's time to leave.
Yeah.
They've done their work.
Definitely.
Okay. You will find someone who needs to learn about unconditional love and do everything to try to get it to them, and they just won't get it. So then you move on, you find another one. So, well, I'll try and find another one. And that's exactly what the healers do, whatever it is you do. And that's why you've chosen to come here.
Would a healer ever attempt to heal a resident or a hybrid?
Look, no. From the people I've spoken to, they have a knee-jerk reaction to them straight away and they don't have anything to do with them. Because you can't heal these people. They have...
Cold-blooded.
They're cold-blooded. Yeah, you're not going to be able to heal them, so therefore you suddenly go, no, I'm not going to go there. So you just stay away from them. So no, I don't know of any star-seeded people who've tried to heal reptilians.
Is those people mentioned in the book, an old ancient book, The Keys of Enoch, these star-seeded people?
Oh, look, you get them referred to left, right and centre in all of the ancient religions.
Now I've got a placement for them, yeah.
Yeah. But they're not necessarily the Anunnaki. Okay? There are people in this room that come from different star seeds who have come here to help. And here's the interesting thing. There are a lot of light workers who are praying, doing a lot of spiritual work to prevent these earth changes from happening. Okay? Not allowed to. You're not allowed to. You are not allowed to interfere with the free will of Gaia. The light workers who are doing that are caught up in their own ego. I'm the brilliant doctor who can heal all. Okay? Let's say all the life forms consciousnesses on Gaia. Amoebas, ants, fish, birds, animals, you name it. Add them all up. Now put the human consciousness in. Where do we fall? Nowhere. We're less than 0.00001% of the consciousness on this planet. And in terms of Gaia, an ant has as much of a vote as a human, as a life force. So Gaia and all of the life forces on this planet saw a half a dozen cells deciding they were going to do their own thing. What do we call that? We call it cancer. And we get rid of it because it's detrimental. Gaia has an agreement with the sun and this solar system to have a cycle of cleansing that comes through every period, and a culling of this 100% of human consciousness. And I'm not talking about the starseeder, because a lot of these people say it's going to be a smooth transition and you're just going to be able to ascend. Of course it is for them, because they can just shift back into their star consciousness whenever they want. Not a problem. So they'll do it. But they're trying to tell these people that they can do it too, and that the events aren't going to happen. So they're all praying against the free will of Gaia. Not allowed to happen. Not allowed to happen. But here's the interesting thing. A small percentage of the human consciousness have been able to deactivate the reptilian DNA that's in them, which keeps them locked in fear, and step up to create something quite extraordinary. And the Galactic Federation, fifth dimensional beings, etc., think that's extraordinary. And so they are coming here en masse to support and witness it, the transition. But for this transition to happen, there has to be a majority rule. Well, if this is 100,000 people, and that's me being generous, against 6 million, and you need 51% to get a democratic vote, how are you going to get that? Sorry?
Clean it up.
Clean it up. By wiping out this and just helping these ones get across the line. That's what Gaia's going to do. Those who are ready, those who are open, and that's the role of the light workers, is to help these people become aware, not to help these people. Is to help these people come aware so that they can make the transition. And then there's going to be a roundtable discussion in the Galactic Federation as to whether the human consciousness is allowed to do that. And we're being told that they'll be put into a quarantine for a period of time to see how they go. Because they're not all convinced. Not 100% convinced. So the key here is this Dracos stuff. Because within your DNA, there are segments that are reptilian. And while they are activated, the reptilians can control you. Have any of you heard of the Montauk experiments that were going on in the US? They were manipulating people using frequencies. Mind games. You know the guy that just blew all these people away in... Harp's a different thing. The guy who blew all the people away he was a Freemason, and he'd been in the States. And so he was one of these people that's been subjected to this. And they use these people to propagate fear.
They said Martin Bryant was one.
Martin Bryant was another one.
Yeah.
If you look into his history, he actually wasn't the one who did that, by the way. There was someone else who did that. He was a scapegoat.
Yeah. What's his name? The WikiLeaks guy.
Julian Assange.
Julian Assange, look, he's a whistleblower. He's a whistleblower. He's another person who wants the truth out there. Okay? So the key here is, where do we fit in? Okay, we know who's behind this all. The Dracos through the Illuminati and their building of underground bunkers and manipulating everything. They're the ones who are trying to control us all like puppets. But there are aspects of us that come from the higher fifth dimensional realm. And the higher fifth dimensional realm are quite happy for this to happen. Because they understand it's just a play. It's just, you need to have fear at the third dimension. They totally understand it. So they're not stopping it from happening because they understand about free will. Where do we fit in? And that's where I'm going to bring Crystal in here. Because we have to be able to deactivate all of our reptilian stuff and make sure that all of our other bits are fully switched on. So that's who behind it, the why we've given to you. So I'm now going to ask Crystal to come in, and she's going to take you through the spiritual aspects of it so that you get a full thing, not just the physical stuff. I've given you sort of the stuff that everyone's going to want the proof for. Okay? Now we're going into the stuff that you can't prove because it's in your heart. So I shall hand you over to Crystal.
As you know, my name is Crystal, and I'm going to briefly talk to you about my journey, just very briefly. Very much like Alex, my journey began as well as a child wide open. I had a very strong connection to the Diva Kingdom. The gnomes that are called cuckoos, they were looking after me, and my parents could go anywhere. I said, oh, the cuckoos will look after me, I'm fine. So a strong connection to the elves as well, and just that whole nature kingdom. And then I shut it down. For whatever reason, conditioning, even though my parents were quite open, I shut it down. And went into full-on masculine ways of needing to achieve things. So because I'd been taught or conditioned that if I'm a good girl, if I'm achieving things, I'm going to be rewarded and I'm going to get love. So my way of thinking that I'm going to get love was to get approval in the world, was to become a high achiever. So I did a lot of things, and you name it, I've been always incredibly busy, completely buying into the masculine world, which I call it, because these are masculine principles, competition, the need to prove ourselves, because what's behind it is fear. And if you remember what Alex was talking about, in the very beginning he drew this circle, this being source, this being all love, and then he drew this circle here. In order to experience himself, Source needed to create the absence of himself, which is fear. Did you talk about the three? No? Okay. So if we're just love, if we're just in a state of love, which is our natural state, how do we know what it is? How do we experience it as anything but? Because if we're like ill, now if we're always healthy, we don't know what it means to be ill. We don't appreciate what we have in our health. So it's the same with this, it's the same with love. If we don't know anything else, how can we appreciate ourselves as being love? So we choose to go into this third dimensional illusion of duality to experience all the emotions that we have, and all the facets of fear and all the facets of love. And that's what I bought into, completely and utterly, until I realized that wasn't getting me anywhere. I was being all things to all people, trying very hard, but really wasn't happy inside of here. So then I realized this is where I needed to get back to. I needed to simplify my life. I needed to stop needing to be liked, and I just needed to just speak my truth and be who I am. So I experienced the fear, and now it was about me getting back into the love state. And this is the journey. Some people may know that there's 7 chakras, and others may know that there's 13. And the 13 are just aspects. There's 1 at the base, 2 at sacrum, 3 in the solar plexus, 1 in heart, 2 here, 3 here, and again 1. And the 3 here is what I'm going to talk about, because we can all know, first we know things, then we experience things in order to have an awareness of things. So here we're just all knowing. So it's the intellectual understanding, the intellectual knowing, and a lot of people I know are doing what's called spiritual intellect, have their spirituality in their head. And I was one of them. I knew everything, I understood everything, but I hadn't experienced it. So this is where I'm now going back into and helping other women also to, or generally everybody, to get back into that feminine, which is what we need at this point. It's the women who need to now step forward to embracing their feminine essence, their being in heart, and creating communities where we can work together as a collective so that we can prepare for those changes. Because look where patriarchal society has gotten us. And this is nothing against men or advocating females or not putting men down. It's simply a fact. The masculine aspect within all of us is fear-based. So we need to prove things. We need to be out there for ourselves. The feminine knows that there is inclusion and every perspective is valid. And so the three aspects is the seeing something, then it's an experience of it, and in order for us then to know it, to fully have an awareness of it. So I use my crystal to demonstrate that. Each one, our human perspective is one side of the crystal. This is, I can't see what you can see there. So I might say, well, mine is really smooth. And you say, no, it's ruffled. And so we each see something different. But it's all part of the same truth. Because if we shift our perspective to that highest point here, all is true. And this goes very much about, the reaction to the events that Alex was talking about that are to come. We all have filters through which we hear what is being presented to us. Some will say, and the majority of the population is in denial about it. I'm saying, I don't have time for this crap. My life is going well, thank you very much. I'm too busy. I don't want to talk about it. Others say, well, at least I have an awareness of it. If I have an awareness of it, what can we do about it? I might as well die, but at least I have an awareness. That's another filter. And then there's the people who prepare. Then there's the people, like the light workers, who say, well, no, we're bringing out this fear. And in bringing out this fear in people, the core fear, we're actually affecting what's going to happen because it's a cause and effect thing. So more people buying into the fear, the more people are going to be affected, and the more we're creating a bad event. That's one filter as well. Because from a different perspective, again, we could say, well, isn't it important that we understand where that we have this fear? Wouldn't we much rather know what's within us so that we can dissolve it and release it rather than pushing it under the carpet? Because if we know it, we can move through it. And that's the key. So what I want to do is I want to firstly give you an understanding of why you are here personally. Why have you chosen to incarnate at this time where all these things are going to happen? Have you chosen to incarnate to simply experience moving over into another dimension, experiencing a death that could be perhaps quite traumatic? Death, because it is an illusion as well. Or have you chosen to be here in order to prepare? Are you a leader that wants to help other people to get into their heart about this, fully aware and saying, yes, this is going to happen and this is what I choose to do? Are you somebody who's going to rebuild? What is your role? Are you somebody who's simply going to hold space? Simply holding love, being the eye in the storm, that silence in the storm where everything around is going haywire. Are you somebody who's going to look after the children because they need to stay innocent? Are you somebody who's a very practical guy, who's like a masculine, who says, right, I'm going to rebuild. This is what we've got to do. We've got to dig a bunker. We've got to have concrete above us. This is what we've got to do. What is your role? So I'm going to guide you through a meditation where you're going to get in touch with your higher self and perhaps remember what that role is for you. Because the key throughout all of this is that we are going through the 5 stages of grieving in one way or another with this. And are you familiar with the 5 stages? No. I'll just briefly run you through them. So firstly, there's the denial. This can't happen. This is far too big, this is crazy, what's he talking about? This can't happen, this is too big. Denial. Then comes the anger. And in one of our lectures, we had a lady who initially wrote on the website, actually I'll talk you through them first. So there's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And in one of our lectures, somebody said, you've forgotten a stage. There are 6 stages. There's the excitement afterwards. Once we've accepted it, there's the excitement. Because if we have chosen to incarnate at this time, we must be pretty advanced scriptwriters because we want to have drama in our lives. And I don't know if Alex spoke to you about the scriptwriter idea of that before we incarnate, we decide what we want to experience in our lives. So we write that script and we find the actors up here that can help us fulfill that script. And then we incarnate and we play it out. We become the actor. And most people forget that in becoming the actor, we forget that we were the scriptwriter as well, because we're getting too attached to just one side. We forget everything else. We forget that perspective. So it's about remembering at this time the perspective of the higher self. What is your purpose and what have you chosen to create in this life? What have you chosen to experience? So, for example, if you've chosen to experience love, you would need to create the absence of love. So what you would incarnate in would be a family where there might be a lot of domestic violence, sexual abuse, just anything that is anything but love. Or joy, similar thing, or you want to experience health. So you incarnated it into a body that's very ill. And the problem is, or the challenge, is that we attach to those things. So once we've been sexually abused, once we've had traumas happening in our lives, once we've felt rejected, we attach to those emotions and we project them forward into the future. And so we almost anticipate that that's going to happen again, right? Because that's what our past experience was. So the key is to not attach, because only then, and by knowing what the purpose is, by going back to that higher perspective, can we then remember for what purpose we chose to experience those things. So the more ups and downs you have in your life, the more advanced the soul you are, the more advanced the scriptwriter you are. There was a lady in one of the seminars and she put on Alex's website an attack of, I need some proof, what you're saying is outrageous, where's your evidence? This was before the lecture, so there was her denial, first stage. After the lecture, she wrote another email. Thank you for ruining my life. Thanks very much for the awareness you've given me. This is all crap. I had a perfectly beautiful life and now I've got all this awareness and going around in my head. Thanks very much. Anger. I don't know about her bargaining stage, but on the way home she also said that she cried. On the way home from the lecture, she was in her car going to a birthday party of her grandson crying. I've got all this awareness now. What am I going to do with it? How can I be happy for him? Depression. And that's a good thing, these emotions, because we've come here to have these emotions, to experience what it feels like, to have this variety. And other beings from other dimensions, they look at us and thinking, wow, there's such richness. And look what we've created with it. Music, dramas, films, incredibly beautiful things, all because of these ups and downs of emotions. So they're not to be ignored. And all of you are going to be at one stage or another with these emotions in those 5 stages. And my aim is to give you an understanding of an experience of going back up here, going to that 5th stage, give you an experience right now of what that feels like, so that in the couple of days to come, you will be able to remember that. And still accept those fears, because I liken it to a water balloon. If you have a water balloon, you're in a pool and you don't want anybody to see that you've got this balloon, you try and push it down on the surface, it takes a lot of energy because it kind of comes up somewhere else again, doesn't it? And you try and push it down again, it comes up somewhere else, and you're spending all this energy suppressing these emotions that you don't have any time and energy to plan. So accept these emotions, celebrate them, live them, honor them, and move through them. Don't attach to them. Does that make sense? And that's really key. And I know it's easier said than done, but if you can remember that, that would be fantastic. My dad passed away two years ago, and that was in Germany, so I didn't fly to the funeral. A couple of weeks later, I went into the cinema, and there was a film playing about a Japanese ceremony of cremation and how the rituals that they do. I felt I was at my dad's funeral. I was crying, but I was at a date at the same time. So this was a bit weird. I was grieving for my father's passing over, and I was having this date. And I noticed myself needing and wanting to have a shoulder to cry on and lean on. But that wasn't our agreement. We were there to have fun. So realizing that my inner child needed something, and she needed to be assured, and she needed love, I took myself off, excused myself, took myself to the toilet, allowed myself to cry for 5 minutes, just let it all out, and then I talked to my inner child. And I told her that she was still loved. I told her everything that you would tell a little child that was crying when she's upset about something. And I put my hands on my heart, and I felt her, and I kind of held her like this. And then I cleaned up my face and went down again, and we had a great night. So I honored my emotions. I expressed them, I let them go, and I carried on what I needed to do. So if you can remember that story when you're getting into one of those phases, maybe that might be able to help you to honor it and move through it very quickly. So let's go into why you are here. So what I'd like you to do is just put down all your pens and papers. So just put your hands not open like you would normally in a meditation, but downwards, because it's like you're giving yourself the energy. This is all about you. The receiving, just trust that the receiving will still come into you and through your hands into your body. So I'd just like you to close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Feeling your body on the chair and your feet on the floor. And just deepening and lengthening your breath. I just want you to imagine to open the soles of your feet and connecting your energy to the heart of the earth, to the heart of Mother Gaia. Whatever you visualize in the heart of the center of the earth to be. It could be a flower, it could be a crystal, it could be a heart, whatever it is for you. And there is no right or wrong. So whatever you get throughout this meditation, throughout this visualization, is perfectly right for you. And if you don't get anything, then just pretend, just make it up. So feeling the connection to the earth, feeling her energy merging with yours, bringing it into your body and through your body up, through the crown of your head, to the cosmic mother, to all that is, to source, your higher self, God consciousness. And just feeling that sense of oneness, connecting above and below, expanding, opening your heart, being fully present in the now. And I want you to visualize being in a beautiful, natural setting, your favorite place in nature. This could be at the beach, in a beautiful meadow, or in the forest. And just notice in the distance a figure appearing, a being. And this being has an incredibly powerful energy. Just notice her or his walk and the qualities that this being has. Incredible sense of love, personal power, wisdom, grace, whatever else there is for you. And just watch this being approaching you, coming closer and closer. And just see her or him with your heart, not just with your eyes. Feel this being as it approaches you. And now you're standing eye to eye, looking into his or her eyes, right into the soul. And this being has a message for you. And it's whispering in your ear why you are here right now, why you have chosen to incarnate at this point in time. What is your purpose? Are you here to prepare for the shift? Are you here to rebuild after? Or are you here to observe it from outer space? And what specifically is your role if you are here to rebuild or to prepare? What have you come here for? And now thank the being. Maybe he or she has given you words, maybe just a feeling, whatever it is perfectly perfect. And just give him or her a big embrace. Connecting your hearts, merging, becoming one. Feeling the feelings, feeling the beingness of this being, seeing the world through his or her eyes, experiencing that strength and power, that stillness, that courage, that love, and whatever else there is for you. Being one. And notice how good that feels. And now visualize that there is a cockpit, like of an airplane. You're going to walk in, it's your personal plane, and you're the pilot. And there's lots of switches and flickers and lots of wires going off everywhere. Some are big, some are small, some are colorful, some are grey or brown or dark black. Just have a good look around there. This is your DNA. It's the control room of your DNA. And your DNA, of course, being the blueprint of who you are. It's got recorded in it all of your life's experiences, all of your ancestors' lives' experiences, and all the experiences you've had in alternate or past lives. It's all there, right in front of you. So have a good look around. And I would like you to see all the switches that have reptilian DNA in it activated, all those wires, and have a look at what they look like. Maybe they're scaly, maybe they're green, maybe they're brown. Are they really thick? How many are there? Are they really alive? Are they pumping juice through them? What's happening with them? What do they look like? I'd like you to take a good note of them, and if it feels right for you, deactivate them by flicking the switch from on to off. And notice what's happening. Maybe they're shriveling. Maybe they're shrinking, reducing in size or color. What's happening to them? And again, if you can't see anything, just make it up, just pretend. And if you like, just follow them all the way through your body, and you might just rip the whole thing out, and you might also like to roll them up, like a film roll, and put them into your reference library. Or you might just let them go back to where they came from. Whatever feels right for you. When you've done that, just have another look at your control panel. See if there are any hiding wires that maybe you haven't seen at first glance. Sometimes they can be very sneaky. Just see if there are any of those, or any other things that you would like to flick off. Fear, need to control, need to be attached to emotions, anger, depression. Just go ahead and flick those switches off. And notice how it changes. Notice how suddenly there's more room because they're shrinking and shriveling, and you're taking them out and either storing them in the library or just letting them go into the ether, away, back to where they came from. Because you have experienced what it feels like to live with that fear, and now is the time to let that go. Because you know it, you've experienced it. So there's no need to attach. So if there are any switches that have attachment, any attachment switches, just go ahead and flick them off as well. And know that you can come back there any time. And now for the exciting part. What I'd like you to do is look at all the switches and all those patterns and panels that have love, strength, courage, abundance, awareness written on them. What do they look like? Are they on full? Are they on half? Are they off? And just go ahead and just turn them on full and see what happens. Notice new juice, new energy moving through them. Taking up all the spaces that you've cleared. And follow them through your body. And notice what they're doing. There might be tingling, there might be an opening, an expansion. And when you've done that, just become aware again of who you are in all of you, who, not just in your human self, but in this beautiful state, being merged with all of who you are, being merged with your higher self. Just again feeling, being that being. And allowing it to just expand in your being, using the breath to do this, fully connecting with that. And come back to the natural setting that you're in, your beautiful space in nature. Feeling the shifts in your body, or noticing what's different, what's the same. And then becoming aware of being in this room, staying connected to all of who you are. Maybe wriggling your toes and your feet and your hands, having a bit of a stretch, and in your own time, opening your eyes. And just trust that whatever you needed to get, you got. Even if you couldn't follow the whole thing. And how are you feeling now? Did some of you feel a shift or more clarity? A lot lighter. Yes. Because we have a choice. If we go to that higher perspective, this is who we are. We are that lightness. So whenever we get bogged down with these emotions, we can just doing that. And you don't have to take half an hour to do it. You can sometimes just maybe even just touch your heart, remember that vision, and that lightness will come back. So this is one of the preparations of how you can prepare for the changes on an emotional level, because knowing that emotionally it can be a roller coaster, so it's about acknowledging that and shifting back to the spiritual perspective of things that can help you to maintain your calm and go about things the way you want to. And maybe even that childlike innocence, that childlike excitement. Because children don't have any good or bad. They don't know what's right or wrong. They're just exploring the world and they're getting surprised at being told off. So just tapping back into that inner child as we're preparing for these changes would be a really, really helpful thing. So that's the spiritual and emotional preparation. Mental preparation, simply visualize exactly how you choose to respond to those events when they happen. Imagine what you'll do when the ground is shaking. Imagine what you'll do and how you'll respond when people are suddenly coming to you because they heard you talk about it, asking for help. Visualizing yourself being the eye of the storm, that calm center. And running this through your mind over and over, because in doing so, what you're doing, you're creating new neural pathways. Scientifically, it's proven that if we are in an alpha state and we visualize things, we can change our neural pathways into something as if we've already experienced it. And wouldn't that be a great thing if you react to it, to these events, as if you've done it 1,000,000 times over already? I used to prepare for public speaking like this. I used to visualize exactly how I wanted to feel. And when things went wrong, I would still be calm. So it really does work. And there's an experiment by a football team as well. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They've divided the team. One half was going to play on the field and the other half was playing in their mind, training the same amount of hours. And guess which team would win when they came back after a week? Yeah, the visualization ones. Do you know why?
Because they prepared what they wanted.
Yeah, exactly. They had no evidence of failure. They never got it wrong in their mind. They always got it right. So their neural pathways were very strongly geared towards getting it right. So it's incredibly powerful. So if you choose to do that, I invite you to maybe 5 times a day, practicing, visualizing exactly how you choose to be. And there's another thing, and Saul always says there's no good in meditating for an hour a day. It's the moment by moment that we really want to experience. So he says 5 times for 5 minutes. So if you can, go into your heart 5 times for 5 minutes a day. Simply connecting to all of who you are. Feeling that lightness, feeling that love in your heart. Remembering that this is who you are love. So experiencing that for 5 minutes, 5 times a day would be an incredibly powerful thing to do. Again, because there's very small, there's only a couple of hours between those 5 minutes, 5 times a day, in which you will remember and you will strengthen that way of being if you're not already doing that. And with that, I'd like to invite Alex back to talk a little bit about the physical preparations. And just be very consciously aware that as you're hearing how to prepare, that you stay in the space that you're in right now. It's a great exercise to keep that lightness up. So with that, I'll hand over again.
If any of you are like me, I tried meditation once. Couldn't do it. There was so much going on in my mind. And I tried many, many times to get it happening. And it just wouldn't work. And I had this voice saying to me, that's not the way, it's not the way, it's not the way. And eventually when Source started to connect to me, he explained to me why. He said, people are meditating to try and clear their thoughts. He said, but every thought comes from source. So when they're trying to clear their mind, they're then trying to fill it with thoughts from source, from God. So they're sort of defeating the purpose. And he said the purpose is to be out in the middle of everything and be calm. Not to go off and be calm and be away from everything and then to come back into the world and go, oh my God, I can't deal with it, I need to go and meditate. So the thing is, no, you need to be in that state and you need to be in the middle of the hurricane all the time. And I think Osho talks about it a lot. For those of you familiar with Osho, is that every moment is a meditation. And that idea about, you know, if you have trouble meditating or connecting, just go into your mind and visualise what you want. It's like, what do I want for Christmas? Yeah, visualise it. Because your thoughts are powerful because they're totally reflecting the whole creation of the universe. It's all thought. Everything is thought. It's a good, useful exercise. It will work. It's like a tennis player. If you're pretty crap at tennis and a coach shows you how to hit the ball properly, you need to practice. You need to go out and you need to practice and practice and practice. And that little 5 minutes a day thing, everyone can do that. In terms of what we need to do physically, obviously there's going to be big changes and we need to do a lot of planning and preparation. Basically, you need to find somewhere out of the sun that's going to have a certain amount of thickness of preparation. There's a great book here, Planet X Forecast, the 2012 Survival Guide. I think I've put it on the sheets of paper. There's a lot of information in there about what to do. Some of the information about, this was written in 2007, and the information about Nibiru is not quite correct in terms of its orbit and the timings and everything, but certainly in terms of the preparations, and it's got a lot of information that comes from the Kolkan Bible and the Egyptians backing it up. So I don't go into a lot of the information because what I do is I say, okay, I'm going to point you in that direction. If you want to do the research for yourself, here are some places to go to get you started. It's about getting the picture to you. I don't have time. If I covered all of this, it would be a 12-hour lecture. We don't have the time to do that. It's to give you the nuts and bolts. So that's a good one to get into. If you want to know more about the Dracos and the agendas and everything, David Icke's book, The Biggest Secret, is probably the best book out there about exposing them.
When was that one written?
David's, it's about 10 years old, I think.
Can I just say that David Icke's actually coming out as well. He's on in Melbourne in October the 8th. Shit, I'll pay for those tickets.
So in terms of the planning, yes, you need to find a safe place. It needs to be somewhere away from the coast. Melbourne will be underwater before there anyway because of the tidal flooding and everything. But you need to get away from the coast. You're going to need to find somewhere where you can store ahead of schedule at least 6 months' supply of drinking water, bottled drinking water. You can't rely on streams or underground artesian springs or something like that because the artesian spring may well be polluted by the acid rain. So you can't rely on that. If you have it as a bonus, fantastic. You're going to need at least 6 months' supply of food, and you can find these lists on the web. The Mormons apparently have a fantastic one. You're going to need simple things like firewood because there's going to be no fuel to burn. All the trees will have been burnt down. So you need to store firewood. You need warm clothing. You need basic vitamins and medicines and all those sorts of things. You're going to need seeds to plant afterwards. And those seeds are going to have to be very highly tolerant in terms of acidic soils. Or you're going to need to have something, what did they say the other night? A dolomite, which will correct the balance of the soil again. Lots of things you're going to need. There's going to be a bit of a nuclear winter for a time afterwards because of all of the ash that's up in the clouds and everything. It'll take a while to settle back down again. But it's like a testing period for us to get through that 8 or 9 months so that the culling makes sure that those of us who are truly understanding why we're here go through. Okay? We've covered a lot of territory tonight. The preparation that you have to do more than anything else is in your heart. And as we say to you, don't believe a word we tell you. But if it resonates with you, enough for you to start doing your own confirmation. And you're going to find a lot of people out there who have different opinions. There are going to be a lot of people who go, oh, I don't believe all that crap. Crystal's brother's a perfect example. And he quotes in every time we send him information, he will send us somebody who totally denies it all. No factual evidence to support it, just somebody who denies it. That's his proof of denial that this guy says it's not true. Okay, and there's a lot of that up. You have to interpret the data through your own filter, through your own heart, what resonates with you. And the best way to do that is get into your highest aspect of perspective. Do not attach to fear-based things. Find your own truth in this. Okay? I want to make sure that when we finish here, we are at the highest perceptive state that we can be at for ourselves. And each of you will fluctuate backwards and forwards. Expect to be tested over the next week or two. If you've had a reaction, how many people when they heard some of this stuff at some point tonight went, oh shit, fear? How many people were or still are in the denial stage, I don't believe any of it? Great. Fantastic. How many people have already started bargaining, thinking, well, I could do this, or, you know, why couldn't I do that, or they're starting to play this against that? Maybe? Yeah? How many people have got to the depression stage? Oh, shit. Yeah, that's a good one to get to. It's like, oh, shit. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. Because the next stage is to say, well, okay, what if it is true? What if I just accept it? What if I just go, okay, how many people have insurance on their house? Why?
The bank demands it. They don't give me credit.
Yeah, because they're tying you into their system. They're tying into their fear-based system. But most people think, oh, I better get it in case the house burns down. But if we gave them advance warning that their house was going to go down, going to be burnt down, they'd go, oh, great, I'll move all my stuff out beforehand. They start planning. So the secret is, okay, if it's going to happen, what would I do? Where would I go? Would I have a plan of action? Because you are being gifted information that 99.999999% of the world's population won't get in time. You're being gifted time to plan. Some of you won't act. Some of you will wait until you get confirmation. Well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see what happens. Oh yeah, well there was an earthquake. Yeah, well there was an earthquake, but it's not exactly where he said it was going to be. And that there was flooding in that city, but it wasn't as bad as he said it was going to be. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer. It's the person who sits on the train track and everyone says, "Get off! There's a train coming." I can't see it. Where? Well, you're not looking in the right direction. Well, I'll just stay here. But can't you hear it coming? Oh, but that could be on another track. It's like deflect, 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 deflect. Most people are going to be hit and it's too late to do anything.
When's that day?
There's several. I can't tell you exact date, but I can tell you that when the financial collapse happens, all hell break loose because money will cease to exist.
So the anarchy, right?
Total anarchy. You will not be able to access your bank account because the bank will have disappeared. All your superannuation goes.
So
You'll not be able to get money out of the bank.
Basically.
Look, I can't tell you what to do, but if I was in your position, cash will be useful for a certain period of time. Okay? But what will happen is when the financial crisis happens, those people who do not have cash will go, oh shit, because you won't be able to go to the bank to take it out. And you won't be able to make transactions because your bank has gone into receivership and doesn't exist. So the only people... Yes. If I was in your position, I would be taking as many loans from as many banks as I could because they're all owned by the Illuminati anyway.
Yeah, I know that.
Get big credit cards.
You know what should happen? The water should go to them. The water should go to them with all the governments.
Well, look, things are going to happen to them. It's too many people worry about what's going to happen to the Illuminati, and building their bankers and doing all of that. I'm not concerned about them. What's going to happen to them is going to happen to them. What I'm concerned about is what's going to happen to me. I know what's going to happen to me. And my next step is that you know where you're going to be. People have asked me, so where am I going to be? So it doesn't matter where I'm going to be, it's where you're going to be that matters. And if you really want to know, we'll tell you later about what's going to happen.
What happened in Japan and New Zealand, especially Japan, I saw on TV where all the water was coming. There would have been people living in the houses, and they would have no warning.
Oh yeah, there's footage of them running, trying to get away from it. No warning.
It's said the government doesn't want you to know, because otherwise they have to insure them and pay for them.
Yeah.
So they'd rather those people be dead, so they have to pay for them.
Do you know when that first hit, did you all see the footage of the nuclear reactors exploding? Okay? Straight away, they went into meltdown. All 6 of them went into meltdown straight away. And what did they tell you? No, it's everything's fine, it's going to do this. And then 2 days later, well, there's been a slight leak, and then bit by bit, they tell you. But they've all gone. They're a mess. It's a total mess.
There was a lecture on YouTube, I think you can find it. There's a doctor, she's Australian, I believe, who sort of went out and explained basically what's happened ever since that meltdown.
Yes.
How we're pretty much already being affected by.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, totally. You know the Gulf. You know the Gulf leak that happened in the Gulf of Mexico. You know how they say that it's all field. There wasn't one pipe that went. They fractured the whole floor. There were up to 20 fractures in the seafloor there. And you know how they're saying that there's no oil leaking? Do you know why there's no oil leaking at the surface? Because they have put a chemical through the whole water that causes the oil to seep to the bottom of the floor. It's killed the whole Gulf of Mexico. It's still leaking. But all the oil that's coming up, this chemical is causing it to fall to the floor. So they're lying. That's okay. I'm more concerned for you guys that you have the information. Okay, it's all about truth. We all have a right to the truth, and the governments are not telling us. There's a group called 2012australia.com.au. You can contact them. They are preparing. They were originally working on the December 2012 date, and we've passed on the information to them, and they're having a massive rethink because they're having to accelerate everything. There are survival groups. We're going to put together an email list, and those of you who want to be on it can form a group, and you can work as a community if you want to plan now, and it's the best way to do it. We also have groups in Koroit and groups in Albury, so you can communicate with them, and there's no reason why the people here couldn't say, well, Albury's going to be fairly safe up there, where are you guys going? You don't want to be in a major city. You want to be as far from a major city as possible. And Albury is a major city. So you don't want to be in Albury, but they're planning to go elsewhere.
Strategically, where would be one of the best places in Australia to go?
I can draw you a map.
What about Europe?
A lot of Europe will be underwater because a lot of it's low-lying.
Including Greece?
Yeah. Well, all the volcanoes are going to go. Look, there is time. There are people who are digging holes, and they're getting containers, and they're putting containers in there, covering the containers in soil and decking them out. And there's time to do that, and it's not an expensive proposition.
I wanted to say one thing to interrupt that. People who can't afford containers, I've worked out a way to build a cheap one. That's recycling car tyres and building a dig hole. Build and just dig a big hole and use car tyres as your walls.
Wow.
So that's the way.
That's the sort of information that when you get together as a group that you can email backwards and forwards. I would suggest if those of you who feel that you want to take some sort of action would perhaps want to meet once a week and form like a committee of management. It's the best way to get things happening. Just let me show you quickly how much of Australia will be left. There's Tasmania. A small part of Tasmania in the northwest part will be left, and this part here of Australia. The rest will be underwater.
What's that? Where's that?
Can you show
From the top of the Great Dividing Range down through, up through the northern part of Victoria, New South Wales, all the coastal areas here will all be gone. They'll all be underwater. And it's very hard to be exact because when all of these changes happen, some parts of the Earth will lift and others will fall. So if I say to you, well, look, that part by the current map is 1,500 metres high, so that'll be safe, it could go down.
It's a volcanic room.
Yeah. It's like a permanent upwards, isn't it? That's the map. For the next...
There will be some slight movement as it all settles down, but the map is going to totally change. It'll be upside down and continents will have shifted here, there and everywhere and stuff will have lifted. It's going to be very different. Hang on, just one time. Antarctica all the ice will go from it and it'll come into a more temperate zone.
That's what they said at Melbourne University years ago about Antarctica, about Melbourne.
Yeah, so there's lots of changes.
It's quite fascinating. I've been in South America a few months ago, and it's a lot of people buying land around Patagonia. But about a lot of people with a lot of money buying a lot of land and bringing everyone around.
If you want to know the safest place to be, buy land next to the Denver airport, because that's where Queen Elizabeth's buying land.
Denver Airport?
Denver Airport's a mile high, and they've got a huge, massive underground base underneath the whole airport.
Just wanted to mention one thing as well. The question of money came up, and some people don't have money but they have time. Other people have money to buy something but don't have the time to do anything with it. So this is where the community comes in. This is where we need to shift our perspective, our thinking, and really work together and see, okay, here's the group of people that really want to do something. What skills do you have? What resources do you have? And really getting together in that way, working as a whole. It's service to others, not service to self. So people with no money have other valuable tools that they can offer the community.
So let me just tie up the money, because it was left a bit open-ended. The banks will totally collapse. All financial systems will collapse. You will not be able to get money out of an account, nor will you be able to pay any bills from an account. Okay? This is part of the legislation that Obama passed after the last one, that they can't bail out any big corporations anymore. It's part of their setup. They fixed a loophole.
That would include, like, even money that you've had there for years.
Yep. Anything that is electronically stored will go. This is the beginning of September. The only thing that will be... Shh, please. The only thing that you will have will be cash money, and it will only be valuable until anarchy rules.
What about telecommunication?
All be going down.
Mobile phones?
Down. Okay, it's all going to go. All going to go. Any other... Does anyone have any other questions about anything that we've presented tonight? If the financial meltdown happens at the beginning of September, and they will trigger it when people start to react to what's going on. At the minute people start to get distracted and go, whoa, well, what's going on? Bang, they'll do it. Because they're distracting them to something that's worse.
Is Greece the start of all of this?
Greece, Italy, Spain.
Right. Oh,
they're setting them up. No, that's the setup. They're setting it up.
Yeah.
They're setting it up.
Yes.
And the US is the other one, because you know they're all tottering on the brink of being bankrupt.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're saying, oh no, we'll extend it for another 2 weeks, because they're going to extend it as long as they can until people know the truth.
Yeah. Can I ask something?
Yep.
You said something interesting earlier. You said that the reptilians, the Draco, basically empower themselves through our fear. Yeah? And if that's the job of the Illuminati, then why are they not out there spreading fear based on this sort of stuff now?
Because if they told you the truth about this, you wouldn't go to work, you wouldn't pay your bills, and anarchy would rule and they wouldn't be able to control you. Because at the moment, there is enough people that if they all stood up against the government, including the police and the army, etc., they could turn around and take charge. So they don't want anarchy yet, but they want to keep you in fear. So they keep you in fear with putting media reports out about how there was a rape in your street and then there was a shooting here, and all the news is all bad news to tell you how bad the world is, to keep you in fear. But they don't want you to know the truth, because if you knew the truth, you would then go for them. They don't want you going for them. They want to keep you in the dark.
So by going for them, you mean raising your awareness to combat that fear?
Well, physically, Physically, if enough people on the planet realised that the Rockefellers and the presidents and all this, we would suddenly go en masse and we would throw out the governments, we would seize all the bases and we would do all of that, and their plans would be screwed. So the best way that they do that is keep you in the dark.
But Greece has tried to do that. The people of Greece have tried to do that, and they keep them suppressed by throwing money at them, saying it's all okay.
That's right. That's how they do it. They did it in Saudi Arabia. They all rebelled, and then the prince or the king went, I'll give you all a 15% pay rise. And they went, oh, okay. See, they're all locked into. Here's the key thing. I'll just get to you in a moment. If you have any sort of attachment or addiction, you will not be able to make the transition. That includes physical addictions too. Sugar, caffeine, nicotine, any forms of drugs. Any sort of physical substance that you put into your body which is addictive, you won't be able to make it. If you have any sort of emotional attachments, baggage to fears and, oh, he hurt me, and any sort of emotional baggage, you won't make it. If you have any attachments to people, now that might seem really callous, but here's the thing. My beautiful boy over there, I'm not attached to. I just experience love because of him. If he shifts into another dimension and passes over at this stage, that's his choice. I'm not attached to it. But it doesn't mean I can't be in a state of love all the time. And that's the key.
Because that's what I was going to say. With all this, that is my fear for two little boys. And with all that going on, I look at them and think, oh my God, what have I brought you into?
No. They chose. They chose to come here. And they will have more awareness than you will at the moment.
You mentioned that death is also just a transition, or it's an illusion.
It's just an illusion, just the same as life is an illusion.
So if we're in the right state, we can just deal with it.
You'll enjoy it. It's like a roller coaster ride. You can sit there and be scared shitless, or you can go, wow! And if you watch roller coasters, who are the people who are scared on roller coasters? The old people. Because the younger ones are just going, this is fun, this is great. Because they haven't learned to be fearful.
So what's the point in doing all this to protect ourselves and continuing and building bunkers and uniting when the rich, the Illuminati, will be doing exactly the same thing they've prepared, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So they're going to be on the same earth that we're going to be on, that's destroyed, but they're still going to be on it.
What dimension are they operating in? Third. Where are we going to be? Same space, different energy. I can take red light and blue light and green light and shine them all into the same space. And they'll all exist in the same space at the same time. And in fact, they make white light. We're 99.99% space. There are other things going through us any second. We think, oh, this is my space. No, there's not. There's cosmic rays and other beings from other dimensions and all sorts of things going through this space. When they talk about there's going to be a hell on earth and a heaven on earth, they're right. The hell on earth is here at the third dimension. The heaven on earth is the fifth dimension. But you can't get there if you're attached by any fears to the third dimension.
And that's the same outlook to have in terms of people that say, oh, how would you then protect your loved ones and your supplies from the people, the anarchists that are arriving on your property with a gun, if you don't allow yourself to go into a fear-based dense state?
Oh, you don't have to be fear. You can just sit there and go, sorry, you had your chance to plan, bang. And you shoot them. And you shoot them. Because from a fifth dimensional perspective, you understand all you're doing is releasing them from the third dimension.
We're setting them free.
Exactly.
Are there any ex-police officers?
So you won't attach any guilt to it.
This is what murderers think. I'm a hero.
Does anyone have any other questions relating to any aspect? Sorry, I didn't get to your question before.
So there was a bit of planning a few years ago with the whole Y2K thing about the crash millennium bug. That didn't happen.
I started supplying stuff. Didn't happen. So how's this going to be different?
There really wasn't any evidence to support that other than the hype that was created around it. Okay? It was all media, and it was also instigated by the Illuminati as well. Okay? What's the difference between that and this? That's for you to decide, because all I'm doing is putting some data before you and saying to it, interpret it however you wish.
And where do you get this information from? That's another question.
There's links on the page. All of those links will take you to a lot of it.
So you don't channel this information from websites? Off the internet?
No, the factual information that I've given tonight comes from websites, comes from NASA, comes from various things. That's why I've given those links. Some of the historical data from the Egyptians, Sumerians, etc., you can find through any links to... there's numerous books being written about translation of Egyptian history. The Kolkin Bible, I've given you those lists as well. And the channelled information I've given to you, I've told has been channelled information that's come from me.
From where though?
From source. From source.
Part of it's channeled.
From God, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, source, yeah.
From the angels or just from God?
Well, source. Okay, understand with angels and higher beings, there's only oneness. So when people say that they channel Archangel Michael, for instance, or they channel Ashtar, or they channel whoever they say they're channeling, what they're actually doing is they're channeling a higher aspect of themselves, but they're not acknowledging it. They're keeping separation. One last question.
Final thing with them. What's it called? Are they going to play any role for anybody?
UFO is very important because there is going to be a UFO invasion which is totally from the Illuminati. When anarchy rules, they're going to try and bind everybody together against some other common enemy rather than themselves. So there will be a fake invasion. They already have the technology here to do that. However, the real extraterrestrials, the fifth dimensional beings, are sitting back, allowing things to unfold, and they will be taking some people off planet. That's already been arranged, and they will be coming back afterwards to assist in the rebuilding.
What shall I say to all my colleagues in the city?
I don't know. What do you want to say to them? Hang on. Shh. Okay. Here's the thing. What we do is we mention it to people. Okay? We mention it to people. If they're curious, they will ask more questions. If they want to stick their head in the sand, we just walk away.